Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
We're going to have to keep an eye on this thumb.
Doesn't look good. Actually, I prefer to not keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to need some help because it's inflating on me, and it's
bruising, man.
Yeah, it's very red, and I'm getting a little scared. It feels very tight. So let's keep an eye on this. If anyone in the medical community can see me on television and is worried about me, I'm playing through pain here. Pablo Torre in with us on ESPN Radio. And did you see what David Stern said, Stugotz?
What about marijuana?
Yeah.
And he thinks the NBA should just allow players to smoke marijuana?
What's he doing?
Enjoying retirement, maybe?
But, I mean, do you not care at all about what – I mean, you groomed this guy to replace you, and you put this on his lap? Like, why would you say that publicly?
Well, I think Adam Silver is open-minded. I think he and David Stern, who worked very long time together, are maybe a lot. I don't think David Stern would have done that without knowing maybe Adam Silver's thoughts on this entire thing. I don't think. I could be wrong, but that was the first thing I thought of when I saw the story.
But I did see that Adam Silver released a statement about David Stern's comment, and it was not in favor of David Stern's comment. It was saying we have a policy, we're not going to change it, we're looking into whatever, blah, 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 but we have no plans to change our policy. And I love that David Stern did this, of course. I love that he did it in conversation with Al Harrington, who is now a marijuana entrepreneur, which is amazing for real reasons and for just comedy reasons. Substance and just it's Al Harrington. This is great. He's on a couch with David Stern talking about weed policy. That would have been in a different, just imagine showing that image to anyone who played under the grip of David Stern.
Right. Mike, how much of that sound do you have on David Stern?
I would say that it was sort of generally known at some point until we tightened the rules that a lot of our players were smoking a lot of marijuana. In fact, some of our players came to us and said, some of these guys are high coming into the game. But we began tightening it up, and at that time, people accepted the generally held wisdom that marijuana was a gateway drug, and that if you start smoking, you're liable to go on to bigger and better stuff.
Today, how do you feel like the perception has changed?
It's a completely different perception. Although the leagues have been slow to adjust, appropriately so, I think. Myself, I've been influenced by the CNN, Sanjay Gupta.
Dr. Gupta.
Did an entire series saying that the laws against marijuana are crazy, that particularly medical marijuana is something that should be encouraged rather than prohibited. And I think that pretty smart people don't know what's right and what's not right, but I think there's universal agreement that marijuana for medical purposes should be completely legal.
That's courtesy of The Uninterrupted. And Pablo's point stands. That is funny to think about how much has changed in the last 10 years that conversation is happening.
A conversation between Al Harrington and David Stern about marijuana.
Yes. How many times was the geometry of that conversation different? How many times was it David Stern confronting head-on across a table of some court a player and thundering at him, how dare you defile our league, how dare you break our laws?
But I applaud him for, the willingness to have his mind changed on this, to doing some research on it, to actually looking into it. I do applaud that. I don't think he did such a disservice to Adam Silver here. Adam Silver can handle himself. He is the commissioner, so.
Did you notice, the very David Stern thing that David Stern did, even when being the newer, cuddlier, friendlier David Stern? He narked on narcs. He said, a bunch of players were complaining about other players smoking weed. And that's why we did this. What? Who was complaining about whom? Who would complain about that?
I want to go back for a second, though. Can you think of anything that the stigma has changed around more quickly than what we're talking about here? To go from 10 years ago, if you came to David Stern with a marijuana question, he would say, get out of my office. Our league is trying to get away and has been for a long time of its druggy reputation from the 80s. Get out of here. And we've gone from that to sitting on an Al Harrington podcast. Al Harrington is now a marijuana entrepreneur, and David Stern, the face of, sports iron-fistedom, is sitting next to him. I'm trying to think of something else where the stigma has changed that fast, where all of a sudden everyone kind of understands, we were kind of being idiots about that.
Right. I mean, it's legal in certain states, not just medical marijuana. Marijuana is legal in certain states. So
I think the only comparison that's reasonable is something like gay marriage, which certainly has large pockets of resistance that we've come to reckon with in 2017. But the idea, and this hits at why this was so uncomfortable, I think, for the league in the 80s and the 90s, there was not just this is criminal aspect of it, but, this is stereotypically criminal in the ways that would scare our consumers. Mm-hmm. Meaning, a lot of black people seem to smoke weed, and that really does enhance this image of the rap league, the hip-hop league, the Allen Iverson making albums with questionable lyrics league, the dress code needing league. And what happened was a lot of white people, to be simplistic but not inaccurate, got on the bandwagon. The people that you needed to shepherd something into the mainstream got on the bandwagon.
Guillermo, can you put it on the poll? David Stern smoking them trees? I mean, Pablo dragged us into the mud again.
Right. I mean, he is getting just.
I mean, it's pretty good mud, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I'm in the Pablo army. I'm a general in the Pablo army.
Well, that's your biggest mistake.
So,
my army's much more fun, man.
Okay.
They don't use words like geometry and apply math to these situations. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just marijuana. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. David Stern is now an advocate of marijuana. That's it.
Which I love, to be clear. Like, the Pablo Army wants to be clear about its policy towards marijuana. It is embracing recreational marijuana usage and encourages people of all ages to. Well, not all ages. There's a cutoff. Parents should decide for themselves. Maybe it's 21 recently, whenever the brain develops.
I think you're talking too much now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? He can be pro-marijuana. Who can't? It's okay to be pro-marijuana. I mean, David Stern.
You also can't be reckless, though.
Yeah. Well, but David Stern is sitting here saying, David Stern is telling you
He's
right
saying
now.
for medical reasons, though.
Oh, but come on. He's just limping in on that.
Yeah, David Stern didn't do the same thing Pablo just did.
Yeah, that's
I
bad.
want to be very clear.
He was responsible. I mean, we understood what David Stern was saying, but he did it in a responsible way.
Pablo, why can't Pablo? Why is Pablo? Whoa. I do want to explore this because I know you're being a friend and executive. I don't think that Pablo did anything wrong there by being.
He said all ages, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to be clear about the cutoff.
He walked that back.
Yes, there's a brain development thing we should all consider.
He walked that back.
Yeah, not
21.
Not far enough, I don't think.
21-ish, I guess, scientifically.
My point around this, though, is one of the things about this that I just didn't understand, and I am like David Stern. I imagine many of you are like this in this regard. I'm old enough to remember going through that bleep storm with Ricky Williams and not really understanding the science of marijuana, just understanding the stigma and seeing everyone throw rocks and garbage at a dude that I knew to be a good soul over the stigma of marijuana usage. If that happened right now, today,
right,
it would be viewed so differently.
Of course it would. We've learned more. We've educated ourselves.
I know, but I love that even someone as old as David Stern is willing. Like, man, people that age get formed in their beliefs. He's willing to accept new information and not just accept it, say it out loud in a way that causes his protege, Adam Silver, a problem because Adam Silver doesn't need this near his desk.
But there is a rainbow coalition of people who are now publicly in favor of at least medical marijuana. And that goes obviously from the OG class of people, from the Willie Nelsons of the world, to like the Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg sells like vape pens. Huh. That's weird.
Does she really?
David Stern, now in the club.
I think Floyd Landis has marijuana shops.
Yes.
Guy won a Tour de France.
I mean,
actually, he didn't.
Oh, that's right. They took it back. Right.
All right, hold on a minute. Guillermo, did you know that Whoopi Goldberg, put it on the poll, did you know that Whoopi Goldberg was in the vape pen business? I hope that's right. I don't know if it's right. Pablo is scurrying right now to find out if it's right or not.
ESPN Radio, let me know when you know if it's right, okay, Pablo?
I know it's right.
Okay.
Headline, VanityFair.com. Whoopi Goldberg launches medical marijuana products targeted at menstrual cramps.
All right.
She calls her vape pen Sippy. Sippy Goldberg.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Football season is heating up. Tune in Sunday as Tom Brady and the Patriots host Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. Pregame begins at noon Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Here's your SportsCenter update. World Series Game 2. The Houston Astros came back to beat the Dodgers in a classic 7-6 in 11 innings. Astros became the first team in postseason history to hit 3 home runs in extra innings of a game. Former NBA Commissioner David Stern said he is convinced that marijuana does have medicinal qualities and should be taken off the league's list of banned substances. Yes, Dan.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, is anyone else amazed that we talked about Whoopi Goldberg's vape business before we did an epic World Series game last night that you just reminded me of a second ago?
Not on this show.
Oh, I even saw that one. It was good.
It was a good one.
Is that going to happen all the time?
Home runs and stuff.
That's what's been going on, Mike. Yes, you've been missing out on a lot of home runs.
It was an all-time baseball game.
A Springer dinger.
Don LeBatard.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Awful.
Stugotz.
I mean,
no, he's an embarrassment, man. He's bad. He's not a good player. I don't know what happened to him because when he was in Portland, he was fantastic. He is not good, Dan. He cost them the game last night. Although they won the game. But had they lost, I'm telling you, it would have been on LaMarcus Aldridge. And the only reason it's not is because they won the game. And I'm still going to crush him even though they won.
This is the Don LeBatard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Somebody ran out the bald guy in sales, so now I need to talk to somebody else about this. We need a sponsored segment. That guy cost them the game, even though they won. And it has to be somebody in sports, like that day that Clayton Kershaw gave up 4 homers and won, 11-4 or whatever it was.
Right, he cost them the game.
Right, where Stugotz can come on and say, that guy cost them the game, even though they won, is brought to you by blank. Because if no one's going to take my idea and make a television show off it, then we should at least profit off of this.
It's a pretty enlightened position by Stu, though. Like, that's a very process over results kind of thinking.
Whatever
those guys probably should be destroyed.
Yeah. Well, what I was doing was projecting out, had they lost the game, LaMarcus Aldridge would have been the guy that cost them the game. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what I was doing.
I'm not confused about what you were doing.
Just wanted to make sure.
I'm
Pablo brings these big words to do. I just need to get it back to a place where people understand.
Well, speaking of fancy words.
Process. That's really fancy.
There was something else in there. Something else was in there. I forget what it was.
It's being profiled at this point, but continue.
Okay, all right. Wow, but wait a minute. You got off easy there because usually Mike plays this sound anytime that you're Pablo-y, condescending and pretentious. You should have done it when we were talking about the Dolphins story and you said, what's the thing that you remember about the Dolphins the last 15 years? And you blurted Asian racism. That should have come with the music as well.
I'd object to the verb blurt. But I delivered that with equal measure of eloquence and diplomacy.
So speaking of words, fancy words, ESPN has gotten a mass blast. This is how we do it around here. We have been told that there's going to be a news announcement at 10:25 Eastern, but it has been embargoed. The ESPN has risen up as a dear God,
dudes destroying them. And you better work on this damn jump shot. Listen.
That's it.
That's all you can turn around.
Penetrate to find his teammates.
It's Max. No.
Yeah, it can't be Max. It's only Stephen A. that we break into program.
He was talking Wizards, and he's so ready to crush them at any point. I got to keep my head on a swivel anytime Wizards come up.
That's fine. You keep it on a swivel. Mm-hmm. But this is the kind of show we do. We break into First Take. We all turn around. And in the middle of that, we love getting email blasts from the journalistic epicenter of ESPN saying, there's a big story. It's been embargoed for 5 minutes.
Embargoed, all capitalized, until all capitalized. It seems a bit much for this kind of story. But at 10:25 a.m. Eastern, I am going to reveal this news. But I can't do it before then.
But we can do it. Do we have permission based on this company-wide email? Do we have permission at 10:25 exactly to announce, to lift the embargo?
We should do a countdown.
Yeah, I mean, let's figure it out.
Literally count down,
yeah, but it's
and then
not worth
yell out what it is.
People are going to be disappointed because it's not that big a news. I just like the idea that a company-wide blast has been sent out, that somebody sent that in the name of journalism, but I don't understand why we need to hold it for 3 minutes.
It's not big news to you.
But why 3 minutes? Like, why 10:25?
My guess would be is that someone is reporting this and they want to give that person the glory that they deserve for reporting this story at 10:25, and they're not going to report it till 10:25.
2.5 more minutes.
There we go. That would be my guess. That would be my guess.
No, but the story, this is going to be, look, this is the worst. We're creating expectations for people, and then at 10:25 we're going to give them the news, and I don't think it's going to be shocking.
Do you think we can get away with doing this at 10:24:50?
No. I don't know. 10:25.
No, come on. I want to break it now.
You can break it in 2 minutes.
Liam,
be patient.
Liam, I want to break
it.
Dan, it was all capitalized.
Okay.
It was all capitalized.
Can someone please call? I want to talk to an executive right now. I want to break this story that has been embargoed. I want to break the rules around here. It's been a long time since any of us broke the rules around here. I want to see if I can get suspended for breaking the embargo by 12 seconds.
Oh, we're getting close to 90 seconds.
I know.
It's a big one.
Big news. Big news.
It's a scoop.
Big news.
Big.
I think
90 seconds. 90 seconds. Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Wait, we're on a delay. Can we announce it early?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, we are on a delay.
Question.
We're on a 7-second delay. Can we announce it 7 seconds early and break all the rules?
You can do it at 24:53.
Mike,
yes!
I want to announce it right now. I want to be a rule.
Whoa. Just 60 seconds away.
Whoa. Hold on, guys. Hold on. 60 seconds! 60 seconds away
57
from lifting the embargo!
The embargo is being lifted.
Oh, we got to do a countdown.
Guys, don't you think I should just do it right now? Just blurt it right now.
Peek under the curtain.
Yeah, we got to count down.
Rises.
Let's figure out. Dan, you're delivering the news, right?
Wait a minute. How does he not get the pretentious
39.
music for that? The curtain rises. You can't be going to... He made it a theater all of a sudden. How does he not get the pretentious music there?
30 seconds.
Curtains are pretentious now?
Who's going to announce it?
I think you should announce
we
it.
can all say it together. All say it together. All hold hands and say it together.
All hold hands. Are you ready?
Well, I don't want to hurt Dan's thumb.
No, my thumb. Yeah, my icy thumb. Be careful, my bloated icy thumb. That's bloody.
I got you, Pablo. All right, 15 seconds of counting. 15 seconds of counting.
What about the 7-second delay? No, let's just do it now. Let's just do it. 1, 2, 3. Ready, go.
Dan Le Batard.
Jeff Van Gundy looked like the guy at the gym who pees out of the bottom of his shorts.
Stugotz.
Is that a wrong thing?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I want to know at the end of the last segment, I don't know what got out on the air. I don't know what it sounded like. I know there was a frenzy. We were all holding hands. And next thing I know, we're all screaming different things. And I'm telling you what I heard there. Let me hear, if you're just joining us, Pablo Torre is in with us. Grateful for his presence. Love having him around. And if you didn't hear what happened last segment, for some reason there was a 5-minute or a 10-minute embargo on when it is we could report something that we knew to be so. And so we went to break on all of us shouting at the appointed time that the embargo had been lifted, the news. What did that sound like to others? Because I know what it sounded like in here. Let me hear what it sounded like out there. Wow. I'm telling you that I don't understand, but I heard Joe Girardi in cancer battle, and like, that's horrific. And I'm telling you, because I didn't understand anything what was being said there. Joe Girardi has been let go by the Yankees, but that does not sound like that when all of us are shouting it. Joe Girardi! What does that sound like? It sounds like the belly of a monster with indigestion.
To be clear, no cancer for Joe Girardi.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's not coming back.
That was not the embargo.
Yeah,
no.
He's not coming back today.
But we went to break, and I thought we had delivered the news to the public of what the punchline was, and that was really hard to understand. Joe
And listening back to it, I'm pretty sure Dan said something about cancer.
Wait, let's do that again.
Let's listen again. Hold on.
Wait, here's what I don't understand.
Was it me?
Wait a minute. Wait. Everyone, please slow down. Everyone, calm down. Very clearly, at the end of that, all of us were headed into war where someone was going to get slaughtered. Like, somebody whipped their shirt off. Like, all of us, what that turned into a war chant for reasons I don't understand. But I want you to now imagine, okay? I want you to imagine a war gathering strength, and we're the army. All of us are the army. Listen at the tail end of this that we are rushing into our slaughter.
What are you saying, Stugotz?
I have no idea. I think I said 911 in there somewhere.
What? Why was Stugotz playing a different game than the rest of us?
Well, part of the problem was Chris just admitted to us he had no idea what he was supposed to yell because we had successfully embargoed the shipping container. There was only two of us that knew the news.
Wait a minute.
That explains quite a bit. That does explain quite a bit.
Was it Guillermo? No.
I just looked at Chris and he was just standing up, screaming. He looked like someone who was just rushing on a roller coaster, clearly to his death in an inferno.
Oh, man.
So if you're just joining us, Joe Girardi is not returning to the New York Yankees.
Breaking news.
That's weird. Right? I mean, they were pretty good this year. They always overachieved with him.
It is a little weird.
Almost made the World Series.
Yep. A game away from the World Series.
Game away.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of play away, right? A play away if you do, plays at the plate.
It's odd because all the players, when they were talking about Girardi getting let go after, if they lost the wild card game or the ALDS, all the players were like rushing to his defense, and it's a good young team. So it's strange to see Girardi get let go today.
And even though we were first to air with it, that goes credit to ESPN 1000's David Kaplan.
Mike, people want that. They want to know if you can slow the audio down. I don't know. They want to slow down.
Fantastic production by the listeners.
Hold on, Mike. If you want to slow it down, because now I have to ask you, if you go ahead and slow it down, and we will wait until the end of this break until we have that sound slowed down, and we can compare. We can ask the important sports question of the day, which is, does that sound like our entire show was headed into battle, or was the Girardi announcement, as a texter writes in, a whole lot of kamikaze pilots flying into Godzilla at the same time? I want to know what that sounds, because I picture us on the ground. Like, I do picture that as something that is making the earth rumble with under our rage. I don't picture this taking flight, but let's examine it some more.
Oh, my God.
Looking at Roy. Roy is pantomiming sprinting.
Roy is pantomiming sprinting, which looks especially like doing the Dougie.
And at some point he was riding a horse for some reason. Roy was pantomiming riding a horse. All right, so what are we going to do here?
I think Mike could just slow down the sound and stretch it out a little bit.
Those isolated tracks.
Yeah.
All right, so we may have to go slower on this one. So this is just a little bit slower to see if we can pick up on anything extra.
Congratulations to the Astros last night for tying the World Series 1-1 in one of the most epic games ever played. Go ahead.
Maybe the best.
That's all of us falling off a cliff at the same time, though, isn't it? Like, that's all of us running.
That went from defiant and brave to resigned and fading into our oblivion.
Stugotz did say 911.
I think I did. I'm pretty certain I did. Let's hear that again. Slow down, Bert.
Somebody's alleging that Stugotz yelled Nelson Aguilar, the Eagles receiver. epic game of baseball played last night in the World Series. Home runs all over the place. Dodgers had been 98-0 when leading after 8 innings.
I don't think that was slow enough. We have to slow it down even further.
But are you guys in agreement that it sounded like we were falling off a cliff? You ruined it. Now it sounds like all those Jets fans in hell, and now I'm going to ask you to slow that down. Now you got to go back to the Jets fan thing.
Yeah, when Mark Sanchez is coming off the field. And,
Pablo, have you ever heard this? The halftime sound.
Yeah.
Oh, you've never heard this?
I don't think so.
The halftime sound after the butt fumble game.
Oh, it's amazing.
Mark Sanchez.
Well, not after, at halftime.
Right, halftime. Mark Sanchez, after the butt fumble, they're down, I don't know how many points at the half. They're running into the locker room. And we have said that chanting and everyone that was outside, it's one of the meanest things I've ever heard. And it sounded like what you would hear clawing, the sound clawing at the walls of hell as people nail, what is it called? Nailing and washing? No, I'm mixing it up here. Wailing and gnashing, excuse me. Wailing and gnashing. I got some short circuiting doing there. Let's.
Tebow, I want you in the second half. I want you now. Tebow, save us. Tebow, save us. Sanchez, you piece of shit. You suck, Sanchez. Garbage. You guys are beat. Don't even come out after halftime. Garbage. You didn't even come out after garbage. Might as well take out the second half, too.
Sounds like Twitter mentions come to life.
Trolls come to life.
We want Mina.
Yeah. Mike, you have 30 seconds to merge the Joe Girardi sound with the wailing and the gnashing of the Jets outside of the tunnel. I will give you 30 seconds to merge the two sounds, a special kind of hell. I will filibuster here. I can't believe that we're still here after that baseball game last night. We are still talking about this this Braveheart sound here. Which would you say it sounds like the most, Pablo? Would you say it sounds like kamikaze pilots flying into Godzilla, or our show headed into war?
It sounds like we're flying kamikaze style into Joe Girardi.
I hope there are people
Look at me
listening
now.
to this
I'm
for the
getting
first
paper.
time. What a weird show,
I
man.
hope Joe Girardi's household isn't tuned to ESPNU right now.
Don Batard.
All right, hold on a second. We've got 1 minute left in the segment. Can we have everyone, including Roy? Roy, do you do a fake Stugotz?
Yeah, buddy, I actually do.
All right, let's all of us at the same time. It's going to be being John Malkovich for 1 minute. Go.
Stugotz.
Hey, listen, man. I love to join the show tomorrow. I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything for you guys. I am never playing here. Make sure this is all an elaborate ruse. Okay? I am way overpaid.
An opportunity.
Fine, I'll listen to
Get on Sports Center.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
One of the things that's happening in this country right now, Pablo Torre in with us, ESPN, the magazine senior writer. You can see him on Around the Horn. And coming soon, a show that is going to be great, he and Bomani Jones. But one of the things that you see happening is after this Harvey Weinstein story blew up, and that was a very hard story to publish, get through lawyers. After it blew up, now all of a sudden, it has empowered women. These strong women coming forth and telling their story have empowered other women to do the same thing. And another director, James Toback, it sounds like he was even worse because then a story came out, 38 sources saying, creepy, deviant behavior. And then once that story came out, the author received 200 more complaints from women. And so this is how this happens. And I'm wondering, when's it going to hit sports? Because it's gonna. Like, this is now a thing where we are combing through the lives of bad behavior. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people must be scared right now because what used to be secrets or understandings or what used to be old-fashioned times or just straight sexism and misogyny. Like, there have got to be a whole lot of folks who have behaved poorly and were fortunate enough not to go through what Isaiah Thomas went through in the tabloid age in New York City. Like, this is coming to sports. It's going to go grab everywhere because this is what the fight for equality looks like. You empower people, and then they feel stronger.
It became clear to me yesterday when I saw that George Herbert Walker Bush 1, who is 90-something years old, had to release a statement apologizing for telling dirty jokes and patting women on the rear end.
Calling it magic, saying his favorite magician was David Copperfield. Mike Ryan, you're not allowed to laugh at that and then groan at it.
This is not the George Herbert Walker Bush that I thought I knew.
Right. But Mike is allowed to react that way. He is.
No, you're not allowed to find it funny and then get serious face. It's okay to think that, look, I am not saying it is okay to be misogynistic or sexist. I'm not endorsing sexual harassment, but it is okay to laugh at the idea of 93-year-old Herbert Walker Bush in a wheelchair, you throwing spitting lines with
like the same line
with Barbara
apparently.
Bush nearby, and then the flames engulfing even him. That you're allowed to find that funny.
Yeah, and honestly, in everything that's going on, we're certainly not the victims. It's just difficult to reconcile some of these things as I see them sprayed across my timeline. One of my favorite electronic bands, Crystal Castles, they split up a couple of years ago, and no one really knew why. There wasn't a good explanation. And then Alice Glass, the singer from that group, came out and said they split up because she was being assaulted and raped, and even when she was a minor. And what do you do as a fan?
It is so important, that reporting that the New York Times did and Mia Farrow's son did for the New York Times, because
for the New Yorker,
because the Bill Cosby stuff started this, but those are very hard stories to publish. And Harvey Weinstein was a lot of bluster at the beginning, but you see what it's wrought, and what it's wrought is necessary. Like, people have to feel the shame of this in order for the behavior to change. People have to see what the consequences are.
It's one of the most important pieces of journalism maybe ever. And you can say that already, and we're not being prisoners of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of what it has triggered. And by the way, this is obviously affecting the media business too. Very prominent journalist, Mark Halperin, today came out, identified as a guy who was also in this group of people doing terrible things to many women over time. And yes, it gets categorized as such, but this is hitting close to home in every business, and no one is going to be spared from it.
You have a former president apologizing. It's going to be arriving at sports' door pretty soon.
I know, but it's the reverse of the marijuana thing. The stigma, what was accepted before has very quickly become something that buries people who deserve it.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Don Batard.
America is addicted to its technology, and it's really unhealthy.
I keep having this discussion with my wife because she is on that phone nonstop. And what I have asked for our family to do moving forward is let's figure out a time where all of us put our phones away and none of us use them till the next morning.
Stugotz.
Yeah, but nobody wants to be with you.
That just dawned on me. Thanks, Dan.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I want to talk about this Martavis Bryant story because I find the difference between the sports to be fascinating. That in Phoenix you have a mess that's going to get rewarded, that the bad behavior is going to get rewarded, and Martavis Bryant is not going to get rewarded. He's not going to get his wish, and now he's made a mess that he has to stew in. And the difference in power in both sports is stark. So here's Martavis Bryant, who wants out of Pittsburgh. Here's him answering or not answering questions, just a montage of non-answers.
Talk to my agent, talk to Coach Simon about that. Talk to my agent about that, and he'll answer all your questions you want to know about that. Once again, talk to my agent about that situation. I'm not going to speak on that, so I like your effort to try, so it's not happening. Just talk to my agent about it. He'll explain everything to you that you want to know. I mean, he knows how I feel, so if you want to know how I feel, talk to him about it.
You want to call his agent?
That's a pretty good strategy, honestly. Among all the strategies we've seen over time of athletes trying to evade questions. Like, don't do the Cam Newton. Don't just walk off the set, so to speak.
Right.
Just have some rehearsed line that stonewalls the media, and the worst we can do is play that montage. But ultimately, he's kind of stopped bleeding from the whole, like, wow, is he embarrassing himself further perspective, right?
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the bottom, now being benched for social media conduct. But I want to ask you guys this, though. Why is the basketball player so much more emboldened than the football player? This is very rare in football. And why do we have a structure where the Phoenix Suns are going to get buried by this? And furthermore, I found out something else yesterday. See if you think this is interesting.
Okay.
That Goran Dragic, do you guys remember that Goran Dragic made a public mess to get out of Phoenix? And it was stark because Goran Dragic had never had a bad public moment.
Yeah.
Goran Dragic wanted to get traded, and so he went out and made a big mess. And apparently the GM in Phoenix is reactionary. He gets his feelings hurt by these things, so the play is to make a mess. If you want out of Phoenix, the play is that not both of these guys have set the blueprint for how you get out of Phoenix. Just say something publicly, and they will trade you.
Make a mess, and you'll get out? I mean...
Stugotz, Goran Dragic had never had a bad public moment, and then he goes out in front of the cameras and purposely made that mess so that he would get traded.
I understand that. Bledsoe has already voiced his displeasure with being there, though. Like, it's a little bit different. He's like, it's on record that Bledsoe doesn't want to.
Oh, no, but I know, but he's their highest paid player.
Right.
He wanted to be there once.
He did, yes.
But it does seem like the turning point was him tweeting, "I don't want to be here." Salon notwithstanding, that seems to be the shot across the GM Ryan McDonough's bow that made him say, actually, now I'm going to go on radio stations and trash both the player and his agent.
Right.
Think about that. Think about that.
Not only is it reactionary, that is self-destructive.
Oh, it's incompetent. That is the opposite of how to do that job. That is the opposite way of how to do that job is getting your feelings hurt and then going and trashing the trade value of your player.
Well, that's the bad part, is trashing the trade value.
No, but I'm saying that is not doing your job poorly.
I understand that, but he's reactionary and some people aren't. He shouldn't be in that position. But how would you have handled that? What would you have done?
But you keep all of that in-house.
But why are we putting this all on Ryan McDonough? Just because he's a general manager, he is working for an owner who Amina El Hassan describes as very meddling and reactionary, and this is probably within that person's resume here.
That's all kind of this fly by the seat of your pants, making snap judgments and all that. This leads to this kind of turmoil that you have. I mean, you got an owner who's in the locker room trying to draw plays for guys. This is not normal. This is not regular. And if you're a Suns fan and you're saying to yourself, why are we always bad? Say, look around the league and ask yourself how many owners feel the need to insert themselves into everything on such a micromanaging level.
Well, he's clearly Ryan McDonough at the very least, and that's completely fair, obviously. Amin has a very personal and great point about Robert Sarver being this insane owner. But yeah, Ryan McDonough is empowered and enabled by someone. And the idea that Ryan McDonough has his job still after the Dragic thing, which, if as Dan described, happened that way.
And as poorly of a team as he's put together, a roster that he's constructed.
But he's also getting played by the players.
That's the thing. That's an immense vulnerability.
It's so obvious. He's getting played by the players. Like, all you have to do to get out of Phoenix is complain. Look at how the Steelers are handling it now. The sports are different. One of the main differences is that if you're in basketball, you've already got your money, and your money's guaranteed, so all you're giving up is future earnings. If you're in football, your signing bonus is guaranteed right up until you stop showing up for work, and then they'll go grab money that you may have already spent.
Right.
Like that's a big difference in terms of if you've already made money and all you're giving up is future paychecks to get out of Phoenix versus in Pittsburgh, you've got a $600,000 base and you're Bryant, and now they might go after your signing bonus if you stop showing up for work or keep making a mess.
Right, but you have a player here in Bledsoe who was like, I kind of understand where the owner and the GM, who was just really a mouthpiece for the owner, right? He's following what, he's doing what the owner wants him to basically do. I understand them getting fed up with it. Now, it's not good for the trade value, but I understand being reactionary and upset by a guy saying, I don't want to be here, after he's already said, I don't want to be here. Like, he won't let it go.
Well, that's interesting.
And he's the highest paid employee they have in the team.
No, but it's interesting that you would understand that, of all things in sports, that you would understand the emotion
I'm saying I
of
can
that.
see the other side
No,
of it.
but that you would understand that, and then the next step on that would be, that is the opposite of how to do the job. Like, you're saying, I understand reactionary. You can't be reactionary in that job.
You can be if your owner, who's paying you a lot of money, wants you to be reactionary to that. You can. You
can, but you're going to do your job poorly.
This is where the story of how Kyrie Irving got traded to the Celtics, I think, is a little bit instructive. Right? Kobe Altman comes in. Everybody knows Kyrie wants out. Kobe Altman would never admit for a second that they had less bargaining power in a trade based on the fact that Kyrie didn't want to be
Look at what they got. Look, now, I understand that Kyrie's a better player, but look at what they got when everyone knew that he had to be traded.
Just the state of denial. Like, why isn't that the default? Why are you indulging and being played by Eric Bledsoe? That just seems pretty transparent.
Come on, Mike. Go ahead.
I got my eyes on Stephen A. because they're talking about weed.
I know. All right, well, let's see. Well, let's just go ahead. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
Be careful.
But that doesn't mean that you say they can't drink alcohol on their own time, particularly a league that is in bed with companies that peddle alcoholic beverages. It is absurd, if that's the standard, that especially once marijuana is legalized,
making a lot
to
of faces.
set,
Oh,
if
there
the
was a
bar is
muffled
alcohol,
chortle.
Marijuana passes that threshold.
Now he's shaking his head side to side, disagreeing with everything Max
credible,
is
peer-reviewed
saying.
study ever done will tell you alcohol is worse societally, and for the individual is certainly no better than weed. In fact, it's actually worse, according to every study ever done. So
Studies. Have you been inside a locker room? Have you been courtside and seen some of these dudes? I'm telling you right now, Max. Here's what I'm telling you. Well, whatever. Here's what I'm telling you as a fact. Trust me when I tell you this. If you can do it recreationally without any repercussions, they will show up to the game that way.
Some will, and they should be penalized on a case-by-case basis.
What do you mean penalized?
What's shocking to me is David.
If you're just joining us, we are live watching First Take.
If it could, then that is a bad thing. You should be benched or not play that
who
game.
snorted? What happened? Was there a horse on the set? Somebody,
David Stern.
There was a neigh. Someone neighed.
Is sitting here saying that Sanjay Gupta's CNN report opened his eyes about medical marijuana and recreational
his shoulders
marijuana.
Are twitching.
That's absurd.
It's not great for radio, but his face is telling a story.
His face is trying to exit the back of his head.
Shaking his head. No.
Gurgling.
We should stick with this, right? Because something's going to happen.
Till the end of time. Till we all perish and fall to our grave.
Stop it, you with this nonsense. Government propaganda. I'm talking reality. I'm talking about dudes showing up to the game.
No.
I've seen it.
Talking reality.
Max, finish your thought. Then we're going to take a quick break and get back to it.
Time for Dan to question his life choices.
Just getting good.
Fun police.
Yeah. You're flying. I'm just going to say it. They need to suspend Molly.
Dan Batard.
I'm telling you, we are good here. Trust me. I've never let you down.
Stugotz.
It's like living a life. Imagine living your life, and every time you take a step, you know you might step on a landmine. That's my life. I'm married to a minefield, and he doesn't know that he's a minefield. It's just like, trust me, Dan, we got this, while cleaning the chocolate out of his teeth with his tongue.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Texter writes in, I'm confused at how Dan mocks gas bags and yet loves Stephen A. Is he doing it satirically?
You don't get the show.
I want to ask you a serious question here, Pablo. At what age, we asked this, you weren't around here, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago about Mike Ditka. What is the age where you're going to grandfather someone in on, hey, you're allowed to be from another time? I understand that that's not appropriate. That's not how we do it anymore, but this is an old person in a wheelchair. And so I'm just wondering, Herbert Walker Bush in a wheelchair, 93 years old. I'm wondering what is the age? Because I thought we had decided 91 was the age last week, that we were going to give a pass in the modern age. I thought we made a decision as a group. 91, if you're on the other side of 91, look, don't do that, Grandpa, but, we're not going to make you lose your job
it's just Grandpa, right. 91 was the age we decided on.
But maybe, variables changed a little bit.
I know, but maybe Pablo doesn't agree. Maybe doesn't. Is there an age where you're willing to allow someone a wider berth on, okay, he says the wrong thing. He is not, or he or she is not someone who has learned, and at this age, I don't expect them to learn. Now, the president of the United States or a former president of the United States, I don't think this is happening to the average 93-year-old celebrity, although maybe it would to Clint Eastwood.
Well, let's not be so hasty. I do think there is a reasonable point at which age and dementia begin to converge. Just like general loss of mental faculties. And in those cases, I am sympathetic and am open to hearing cases for why they should be treated differently. But I also worry that there are some pretty lucid 92-year-olds who are like, oh, wait a minute. I get this diplomatic immunity? I can park wherever I want? I can't really be arrested? Like every hour of my life is the purge? Really? I don't know if I'm willing to give that benefit of the doubt to anyone.
Okay, very good.
Not shocking that you would have that take. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's like
I like how Stugotz is investing in his 90-year-old self.
Yes, I am.
What's happening right now?
Yes, I mean, there's not an age where even if you're lucid, you're not going to change your ways. Like you just stop caring about certain things.
All right. But can I just paint the portrait for you? Okay, of a former president of the United States in a wheelchair with his wife. Barbara Bush, who has been old for her entire life. Okay, she's nearby. She's Bill Snyder. She's the female Bill Snyder.
She was old when he was actually president.
She's been old.
Yes.
She is standing nearby, and the former president of the United States is having a statement where he's apologizing in the present and in the past for. Saying that his favorite magician is David Copperfield, and then he grabs women. Now, the grabbing of women's not okay, obviously. And I need to preface all of this by saying you need to understand that as men, we don't understand what it's like very often in America and other countries to feel like prey.
Yes.
To feel like you're prey. So that's a very serious issue. I'm just saying that the visuals on this are kind of amazing. And what?
No, I mean, movies, right? Like the Johnny Knoxville movie where he dressed up as an old guy and like did all these things. That was based on this premise, which is you can get away with so much more if everyone thinks you're a doddering old man. That was a movie. I forget what it's called. Old Dirty Grandpa or something.
I just feel like 93.
Was that Robert De Niro movie? I can't. The two are so similar. One was a young man dressed as an old man, and then it was just Robert De Niro.
Being a young person doing a job at a magazine. But I do think it's reasonable to point out, as these people inch closer to the grave, yeah, they probably have a different philosophy on life. Like, they may stop caring about things. They may opt out of the social contract because they're out of here pretty soon anyway.
What I'm asking you is, am I allowed to treat this as a largely serious topic. And when it arrives this way, to have a smile on my face because the visuals are ridiculous.
It is absurd.
It is visually something.
But you're asking for permission to smile?
I'm asking for permission to smile in today's climate.
Well, as your smile sheriff, I'm not sure if I can grant that dispensation.
Okay, it sounds like you're being very hard on me. As a first-time offender,
I don't want to be the one to grant it to you.
I feel like I should get a lenient sentence on this.
We need to clear this up because I could see your confusion. Johnny Knoxville was bad grandpa. Robert De Niro was dirty grandpa.
But here's what I'm saying. I feel like grandfathered in. Once you're a great grandfather, if not like Brett Favre is already. Once you're plus 90 great grandfather, can you get great grandfathered in on clearly inappropriate joke?
That'll be the sequel. That or Dirtier Grandpa.
We'll talk about an amazing World Series game next.
Don Le Batard.
When's the last time you were that angry or passionate about something?
Never.
Ever. Never seen Dan.
Never in my life. I've never cared about anything or anyone the way that he cares about it not being the United States of Tortorella.
Stugotz.
He has to be taking all kinds of pills, right?
No. Man, what are you doing there? That is reckless use of the microphone.
Well, the blood pressure has to be high, does it not?
Put it up on the poll. At Le Batard Show, did Guillermo just accuse Stephen A. Smith of pill popping? Yes or no? That is really efficient, disastrous use of the microphone right there.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Thank you for all of you who are listening to us in Atlanta on AM 1230 and in Philadelphia on 610 AM. We do sincerely appreciate you giving our weird show a chance. Pablo Torre is in with us today. He writes for ESPN, the magazine. You can see him on Around the Horn. Pardon the interruption. Tomorrow and all over ESPN. I want to talk about this baseball game last night. Dallas Keuchel saying the balls are juiced. I want to get to that, but during the break, I was treated to Stugotz's first impersonation. It was of a 100-year-old Kirk Douglas. And so I don't know whether you guys want to hear this or not because of the conversation we were just having about, the idea of a 93-year-old former president doing Copperfield jokes.
Guys, do we want to hear this?
No, man.
I
think that's a good idea.
What do you think, Pablo? Is it something? Is it something
weighing
that
the possibility of something bad happening?
No, it could be bad, but I got an impersonation of Kirk Douglas. First of all, Guillermo put it on the poll. Did you know that 100-year-old Kirk Douglas was still with us?
I think he's the oldest famous person.
Right.
Is he?
Is there anyone older and as famous?
This is
Betty White's
question.
95, and so I think I'm with Pablo on this. Kirk Douglas is probably the oldest famous person that we have.
Buzz Aldrin's 87.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's a good question by Pablo that's being posed there. Think about it here. Does America have an older famous person? Because we're not doing the world. America have an older famous person than Kirk Douglas?
It depends. Do you think Greg Cody's very famous outside of Miami, or is that just a regional thing?
So you don't want to hear the Stugotz impersonation? It's very short, and it's sort of out of the side of his
what we were
mouth.
discussing was, what Dan was making the point, at what age you arrive at where you could say whatever you want and people won't get mad at you.
Okay, but we're not talking about, I guess I should make the clarification, we're not even talking about just saying what you want. We are talking about sexual harassment. So we were talking last week about the idea that you give some diplomatic immunity to 91-year-olds if they say the wrong thing. But now we're talking about, man, I'm telling you something here. The wheelchair is what changes it.
It does put him in a position of visible vulnerability.
It's hard to see him as threatening.
About to go full horizontal forever.
Yes.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have power, and it doesn't mean he can't abuse that power, but he doesn't look in any way threatening, like he could exert his will on anybody. So it makes the idea that it makes him less threatening helps him here. Regardless, we decided during the break that 100-year-old Kirk Douglas would be more threatening in that regard because of Stugotz's impersonation.
What's the big to do about Weinstein? That's the way Hollywood's always been, and it's the way it's always going to be.
Yeah, see, that's more threatening.
Yeah, I think we were right.
Yeah, I think you were right. Oh, you were right about not hearing the impersonation?
Yeah, it wasn't
okay,
funny.
all right.
I was afraid of something else, but that just ended up being bad.
Okay, all right, very good.
Why? I mean, I am a little offended that Kirk Douglas is bad. That's the way it's always going to be.
All right, you kind of ran out of gas there.
I'm a luminary.
Now you just sound like you.
That's true.
You sound you. So last night's game, what do you make of the changes in baseball that make it so that everyone's hitting solo shots, that everyone's swinging for a home run every time?
How'd we arrive here? That's like, I was thinking that last night. How'd we arrive at a place where it's hit or miss? Where there are so many home runs hit. It was so exciting. And if they're not hitting home runs, they're striking out and the games are moving a bit quicker.
Evolution. I think it is the efficiency of the game. The hitters have evolved to the point where they realize the value of the home run, and they've realized that the strikeout isn't a negative, that the strikeout, if you're swinging for home runs, it's okay to strike out.
And they apparently quite literally doctored the baseball. Not in ways that are illicit, but there have been studies into how the ball is flying differently, how the seams have been adjusted, which make home runs more likely. Which all, I think, brings up the larger point, though, which is why do we enjoy this? Well, we all enjoy being graded on a curve, it turns out. In that sense that we'd rather a lot of people get better grades than truly sorting the wheat from the chaff. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really want to know who the good students are. I want to see everybody kind of get B's and A's. And we're getting a lot of C students who are now getting B's, and it's way more fun than watching them scuffle through at bats.
That game was amazing last night.
Unprecedented, honestly, with all the extra inning home runs. I mean, Pablo said it earlier, Dan. I'm not certain it is Game 6 for me because I'm a Mets fan, but I think you said this earlier. It might be the best World Series game ever. Like, that's how special it
personally.
was. Yes.
I mean, well, that's different, right? Because the best World Series I've ever seen was Twins and Braves in 1991. All the games were one run. It was crazy. It was
Morris.
crazy. Yeah, you got walk-offs. They were all one-run games. All of them were close. But that was a very different style of baseball to the one you're talking about. Because what we were watching last night is everyone watching had the knowledge we're always one swing away from something big. And then the way that the all of the rallies were bang, bang. They're not even rallies. It's not get a man on.
It's just home runs.
It's hit the ball as far as you can. It's keg softball.
Remember, we complained about long baseball games. And it turns out we don't mind long baseball games. We just want baseball games that are full of dingers.
Well, and we want them to have stakes attached to
yes.
it. Like, there are certain things you're willing to put up with during a postseason game that you wouldn't put up with during, Game 74 of the regular season.
I just think this is such a fascinating evolution of the sport where the pitchers have gotten so good. Everyone's throwing 96 miles an hour. Relievers out of the pen are so specialized that 25% of the time, Joe Sheehan told us, they pitch to no contact. So 1 out of 4 guys are coming out of the pen 1 out of 4 times is a strikeout. Because you just can't hit somebody that fresh throwing 96 miles an hour, and they're just there to face you. And so the specialization of it makes it so you get a game like you got. Well, hell, man, this was the year with the most home runs ever in the sport. Consider that there was a time where everyone was cheating, and they didn't hit this many home runs.
Yeah. I mean, 8 homers, right, last night? Was it 8 homers? 5 in extra innings? That's so fun. Think about that.
Right. And they took, to Dan's point, Rich Hill out after 4 innings.
I hate that.
And Verlander came out after 6.
I do not like what they did with Rich Hill. I don't like that these managers go in with, like, okay, my guy, I don't care how he's pitching, my guy is going 4 innings, and I'm taking him out. Because Rich Hill was going fine last night.
No, but when the Yankees do that with Sabathia, that's interesting. It's about the specialization of the sport. Because the relievers are so good that all of these guys, Sabathia one time during the lineup can blow everything out. He's just going as hard as he can for 4 innings. With the knowledge that the guy who's coming out, the specialist who's coming out in the next inning is going to be better than he would be in the 5th. That's some of the stuff that's happening in the sport where you're not facing tired pitchers anymore. Like, they've gotten rid of that. The guy who you're facing that used to be a tired pitcher is now someone coming out of the pen, and 25% of the time you're not hitting the baseball because he's throwing it. And anyway, you're not hitting it fair. Because he's throwing it 97 miles an hour.
But it's interesting because you have like guys like Buster Olney who support this and think it's a good way to go about it. But then he criticizes the Dodgers manager for keeping Kenley Jansen in for 6 outs. And like, which way do you want it? Like, that's your best arm right there, right?
Well, they were 98-0 this season when they led entering the ninth. I don't know what you do about that. That's just baseball. That's totally random.
Right, a guy hit a solo shot off of him. It's going to happen.
They had the best bullpen in baseball, the Dodgers.
Yes.
This is what they were designed to do. They've been doing this all year. But yeah, people love homers, man.
We have arrived at a place where baseball has become, I don't know if it translates to the regular season, but baseball's exciting. At least this brand of baseball
Mike is making a face at you. He doesn't think baseball's exciting, or he might be making a face.
I don't care what anyone says. Last night
how Pablo petered out on the segment. Excuse me.
He did. I mean, I don't care if you don't like baseball. I don't care. Last night was exciting. I don't care. There was drama. There were stakes attached to it. It was the World Series, and it was exciting.
I admittedly petered out.
You did.
Time for Dan to question his life choices.
Were we boring you?
You did stop trying.
Were we boring you? Did you forget we were doing radio? Did you? Because you were so palpably not interested in what we were talking about.
I just realized I was talking about home runs and basically just saying the word home runs a lot, so
you just quit?
Quit.
Well, that's not a great teammate. We've got a quitter amidst us. Let's go ahead and call him a quitter. Chant him into motivation. Let's bully him. Let's bully the quitter. This Jonathan Martin. Let's bully him. Ready?
I mean, now you did the Jonathan Martin thing, and I'm just remembering what he said about Richie Incognito at the beginning, and I just want to avoid that at all costs.
That's right. Hashtag Asian racism.
That's the way it's always been, and it's never going to change.
No, Kirk Douglas. No, 100-year-old
Weinstein. No, never going to change. Come here, Mama!
What happened? Why did you peter out?
If anyone should be saying 911, it is Stugotz's impression of Kirk Douglas.
If you're a business owner, you know how
up to a respirator, man.
You know Kirk Douglas is?
There are shots that Pablo showed me where, yes, he's not doing it.
I thought he just wrote an op-ed.
If you're a business owner, you know how important.
Dan Le Batard.
Let's get it crunk upon them, happen on them, in the dancer, we got you open,
Stugotz.
Don't need no direction, holleration, so just stand for me, let's get it percolated, while you're ready, so just stand for me, everybody they're on up, cause you know not ready from.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We missed the joke, Mike Ryan. Oldest celebrity. Oldest celebrity is not Kirk Douglas at 100 years old, as Pablo continues to look at his list for oldest celebrities in America. Rick Pitino is the oldest celebrity in America.
By a lot, yeah.
5,000 years old. And I don't know how it is that we missed that. A terrible, egregious error by us. I apologize on behalf of the show and the company. A-Rod for Yankee manager?
Yes.
Yes, please. Here for it.
Hell yes.
His transformation has been something that is just totally baffling to me.
He's America's sweetheart.
Oh, yeah. He's so good on TV, man.
I had a group of people over my house, and we watched the Shark Tank episode that he was on. And
he was great.
It delivered.
He was great.
What was he selling?
Did you see the guy who didn't choose A-Rod?
He was a shark.
He was a shark.
Oh.
No, he was a shark. Did you see the guy who didn't choose A-Rod?
Yeah, big mistake.
Well, he didn't choose him, but A-Rod still got out of his chair, hugged the guy, said, if you need anything, let me know. I mean, I am telling you.
The guy was Dominican,
Woo!
so A-Rod turned on the Felicidades.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, man, it was so good.
He didn't even choose him. And A-Rod's like, I'm still here for you.
How is A-Rod Spanish, by the way?
Not great. Oh, it wasn't bad. It's not great. I didn't say it was bad. I said it was not great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he kind of sounds a little stiff.
Yeah, he doesn't use it that much. But hold on a second.
He is charming, man. That's all I can tell you.
Well, but wait a minute. I don't understand what's happened here. I really don't. I've always liked A-Rod. I've known him since he was 19 years old. I was when he was drafted. I was in his home when he was drafted because it was a big deal in South Florida. And I've always liked A-Rod, but A-Rod's unusual, and I like unusual. I gravitate toward unusual. But this turn is weird by any standard, where a guy goes from being chased out of the sport with pitchforks, cost a year ban that was hugely scandalous, and now I'm back, baby.
One of our greatest broadcasters.
No doubt. I mean, and Hal Steinbrenner said that on the heels of Joe Girardi being let go by the Yankees, that he envisions A-Rod's role to expand with the team.
It can't be manager.
I hope it is.
No, we can root for it, but there's no way they would actually do that, right? A guy who's...
Well, how do you think Yankee fans would receive that? Dan, first off, they can do that because other former players have done it.
The fact that there's a question about how they would receive that is truly mind-blowing.
Right, because it wasn't a question a couple of years
All
ago.
of it is mind-blowing.
He was persona non grata. He was being stalked by reporters. He was a villain, a black hat villain.
I think Yankee fans would love it now.
I think everyone would be entertained.
Yes.
And from that perspective, absolutely we should root for that.
Yes.
I miss him in baseball, actually. That stuff was interesting.
But can we have...
Wait a minute. Wait, you miss him as a baseball player?
Yeah, so if they can get him back in the game as a manager, I'm in on that.
Just being in baseball, I think.
I miss him in the headlines. It got me invested. I like the whole drama behind it.
But how real is your level of betrayal or wanting to call him cheater if this soon later he winks at you on television and you're like, never mind about how angry I was?
It's not real, Dan.
It never was about that.
Never real, right.
Never was about that.
Right.
Just like yelling and people being embarrassed. That's fun.
But we don't care about steroid users at all.
No, we don't. The media does, but we don't.
There was a time that I did.
Right.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, but if he's doing it like Bonds, the fans in San Francisco loved Bonds. The other fan bases didn't really like him, but that fan base loved Barry Bonds. They loved him.
I like it when it's like up until the point that it stops being embarrassing, then I'm cool with it. If J.J. Watt gets busted for whatever reason, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of that. And I'm going to say, how dare you, and all this, and pretend like I'm outraged just because it's going to be fun to do. And then a couple years will pass. And be
But
cool.
I feel like that's America's fastest growing hobby right there, what you just described.
Yep.
Cheering the demise of our idols and then watching them rebuild themselves by humbling themselves?
Just sort of forming an angry mob to yell about something that you don't care about that much.
But it is part of the charm of A-Rod that he is seemingly egoless, which is a weird thing to say about someone who is dating Jennifer Lopez and is co-hosting The View and is a shark on Shark Tank and is in front of our cameras, millions of people all the time now.
Is it egoless or he just allows others to make fun of him?
He seems to project a harmlessness and a vulnerability and, quite honestly, a thirst. A thirst to be liked that's weirdly being satisfied by us.
Yeah.
We're liking him, and he is begging for it, and we are into it.
We used to always not like that. We always used to not like how hard he was working for us to like him.
Yeah,
we called it insincere.
I dig it now.
I'm
in.
The magic televised box.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Don Batard.
Dice Clay was the biggest comedian in America at one point, selling out arenas. And he is god awful.
Stugotz.
Little Miss Muffet.
Yeah. That's right. What's in the bowl?
Funny.
You remember the smoking of the cigarette? Smoking of the cigarette.
Little Miss Muffet. Cigarette behind my head. Yeah. It doesn't age well.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Pablo Torre has to go to the bucket of death here in moments. We're going to do that. I know we're going to do that because I just saw, for some reason, Mike Ryan arguing with the Grim Reaper. And I need to point out to people how funny some of these visuals are. Why were you yelling at the Grim Reaper? I don't understand us not having. I don't know why we couldn't get a more confident Grim Reaper.
After all these years, has no idea where to stand when going into that studio. It's a problem every time. She's either blocking a shot or hitting her head on a television. Its head. Not unlike Phil Dunphy in Modern Family, always falling on the same step. We need to correct the behavior.
All right. Is it anywhere? Can it hear us right now?
It is. Yes, it can.
It is.
I was going to, for the audience, predict what it is going to do because Mike is right. It is the same thing every time. Get back at
Hold on. Close the door for a second.
Close that door.
Close the door so the Reaper can't hear through the soundproof doors. because Stugotz is going to predict what's going to happen here with the Grim Reaper.
So it is going to walk in and stand in front of the camera to the right of Dan Batard, okay, to the camera to the right, okay, going to stand in front of it. Dan's going to get upset and then ask the it to move over, at which point it will hit its head on the television
No,
set
that's
right
happened like 10 times. I don't believe it's going to happen this time.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and do this right now. All right, let's go, Grim Reaper. Come on in here.
I get how Kirk Douglas is 100 years old. I mean, the Grim Reaper is the one who was intimidated by Kirk Douglas.
That's correct. Here comes the Grim Reaper, confident as ever.
Yeah.
Get away from the camera! Don't talk to me, and don't fall out of character! Don't talk to me!
You're blocking the camera.
All right, so do you have trouble seeing through the mask? Is that what the problem
We
is?
are bullying death.
Okay,
We are just bullying death.
All right, so this is the way this works. Pablo reaches into the bucket of death brought in here by the Reaper, and whatever he selects will be his fate for the weekend, unless the first time double death is immediate. He gets to put it back if it is not something to his liking, unless it is double death.
That is correct. Did the Reaper bring a glove in for the Reaper's going back?
The Reaper's going to leave again. The Reaper is.
I didn't predict that. I'm sorry.
Reaper is more incompetent than the Phoenix Suns management, man. It's unbelievable. The Reaper's competent in everything else the Reaper does around here. The Reaper is not competent at this.
You're blocking the camera again, Reaper.
Again, you're blocking the camera, Reaper. Don't talk to us, Reaper. Stay in character. So go ahead and select from the bucket of death here,
All right.
Pablo.
All right, here we go. Some big favorites here this week, Pablo.
The purple helmet.
The Vikings are in London against the Cleveland Browns.
They're minus 9.5, Pablo.
Yeah, so you're a 9.5
You got to keep
favorite.
that one.
I'm going to keep this.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
That's
I'm
pretty
gonna keep
yes.
this.
Yeah, it doesn't get a lot better than that.
That's pretty good right there.
Draw. See, that segment should be 30 seconds long.
I mean, unbelievable. The Reaper, I don't understand how the Reaper is so bad at this. And we're turning into a situation where it feels like we're bullying the Reaper.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
But you're right. Like the Reaper
But it's more okay because the Reaper's genderless.
Yeah.
The Reaper might be the most competent person on this show, involved with this
Competent.
show. That's what I said.
Yeah, not confident.
Wait, we're talking about the Reaper, or are we talking about
Death can't,
not the Reaper?
Yeah, Death can't really go to HR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's Steve Martin movie? Oh, that was Death Becomes Her.
No,
Steve Martin was not in that.
Wait a minute. What are you doing?
Death Becomes Her that's a fine.
That's Meryl Streep, isn't it?
Yeah, Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis. Nice little dark
wait a minute,
comedy.
That really should have been internal monologue.
Hold on. Well, not only should it have been internal monologue, I want to point out that Pablo thought that Death Becomes Her. He thought that the name of the movie was Death Goes to HR. That's a thing that just happened now.
Starring Steve Martin.
When you put it like that, it sounds like that was a terrible sequence of events.
Death Goes to HR. What do you do? The first question on Highly Questionable today is, did the Dodgers choke?
I mean,
well, did they?
I mean, they did. It's obvious.
Let me tell you something. I did not like this Rich Hill decision.
It was terrible. I'm telling you. I do not get. You want to go in and say, Rich Hill, get us through 4 innings? You have to adjust on the fly there, and you have to say, you know what? Rich Hill is pitching very, very well. I'm keeping him in the game. You have to. Sorry. To have a set amount of innings before the game starts, to me, is absurd. And yes, to answer your question and to answer your show's question, they did choke.
Well, hold on.
Big choke.
Okay. I attacking the first one first. Why is Kirk Douglas here again?
He's choking.
He hates the modern reliever, obviously.
Yes.
Well, but
he wants the starters to go nuts.
I won! That's the way it's always been, guys. We're going.
We could stop going to that.
Okay, go.
Yeah, we should have stopped 3 times.
It hurt my voice.
I don't understand. And come on. I don't understand how the 2 questions off of that game could be. I just offered Stugotz the question. I'm mad at the producers of our television show for making it, did the Dodgers choke?
Mm-hmm.
But off of that game, a celebration of sports, it's not merely that the producers asked that question. It's that you followed around and said, not only did they choke, I also want to go from that game to questioning the manager's fourth inning decision.
I just don't like it, man. What do you want from me?
Off of that game, dude?
You have to.
Why?
It would be lazy to just criticize one of the moves in extra innings, or that game was lost when he pulled Rich Hill.
I mean, Dan, Rich Hill is at 60 pitches. He's 4 innings in. He's given up 3 hits, a run, and struck out 7. I mean, what's the point? What's the point? Oh, we got the best bullpen in baseball. Let your starter throw a little bit once in a while. How about that?
How old is Rich Hill? He's in his 40s. What are we saving his arm for?
That's what I said.
I'm fairly certain he's a 47-year-old man.
He's 37.
Close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Roberts hates Rich Hill, right? Because he cost him a no-hitter also.
And that's the other point. Right, he cost him a no-hitter because he was saving him for the postseason. Then he gets to the postseason and throws him 4 innings. Make up your mind, Roberts.
Again, one of the most
artist.
Epic baseball. One of the most epic baseball games ever made. Your chief contribution from this, and we're getting recycled leftovers, by the way, because I heard this already on Mike and Mike when he was on this morning.
I didn't want
They
it.
actually asked him the question. Mike, they asked him the question, what was the most interesting thing from the game last night? And that's what he chose. He chose Rich Hill yanked in the 4th.
It's interesting to me that these managers go in with a set agenda on how many innings a guy's going to pitch. How about go by feel? How's that sound? The guy's a starting pitcher. He's not a guy you didn't sign him to go 4 innings. You just signed him to go 8.
Bullpen was 98-0.
Yeah. How'd it work out last night? Huh?
98-0.
They were due. Actually, they were due.
Okay.
They were due to blow one, and
All
they
right.
did. So,
Right.
There you go. Choked.
Looked to me like they could have used an extra inning or two before they got to that bullpen.
Exactly.
Because that's when the wheels fell off.
Yep. And then Brandon Morrow, who's been maybe the best guy out of that bullpen.
Perhaps.
He gave 1 out. I mean, 1 hit, and they took him out. And went to Jansen for the 6-out save.
I mean, Jansen's been kind of great all season.
Yeah.
Isn't he the best reliever in baseball?
How'd he do last night? I'll tell you how.
Wow, that was a bad segment.
I disagree. That was Stugotz in prime peacocking form.
Don Le Batard.
They've been around since 1896.
Oh, get out your wallet.
That's why I was getting the money ready.
Stugotz.
I don't think Stugotz should be fined for that.
Great, money back in the pocket.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Pablo Torre in with us today. Our thanks to him for coming in from New York, ESPN, the magazine, Around the Horn, pardon the interruption, and soon coming to his own television show with Bomani Jones. We have said before that Ben Roethlisberger looks like a 4-year-old trying to draw a person. Do you agree that Lonzo Ball, a texter is sending this in here, does Lonzo Ball look like a child's poor drawing of Drake?
Yeah, it's an internet meme. Not original.
Okay, I didn't know that. I had not seen it. I'm sorry.
You were so hurt by that.
I'll put it to
Well, you know,
you
this
hate
is,
that. He hates
in the
that,
modern
right.
age, this happens very quickly. All of a sudden, you're the guy who gets late to the joke, and there's great shame in it. There I was. Mike Ryan tried to protect me, saying, look, people have known that for a long time, Dan.
Yeah. And
How
just
late am I? How many months? How many weeks?
A couple months on that. And just so you know, that
Preseason.
shark that's swimming through the streets of Puerto Rico and Houston and South Florida, it's not real.
What else do I need to look out for? What else is there? Give me the whole list of things that I have to look out for so that I know not to get fooled.
If you see at a darn Schefter, but the R is right next to the N, making it look like it's at Adam Schefter, you have to be very discerning when it comes to this. It's not Adam. It's a darn.
Oh, Stephen A's yelling again. You missed it. I don't know what he's yelling about. Oh, it's Lonzo Ball. It's a Lonzo Ball.
That's
situation.
a replay.
Oh, is it? Is that what's happening?
We're being fooled by a hologram?
They re-air that show right after it airs? Really?
Yeah, on the Deuce.
Wow.
Did you guys see any of the Lakers-Wizards game last night?
I did. I got to tell you, I'm paying special attention to the Lakers because I'm trying to figure out where LeBron's going to go next. And I told you this before the season. It's going to depend on how Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram play. And I'm telling you right now, he's seen enough. LeBron's going to L.A. They are really, really good. And I do find it fascinating.
They're not good yet.
Dan, they're
not
good
yet.
They are good. Whose phone was that?
Was that your phone?
That was
Wasn't mine.
Pablo's. That was Pablo's.
That's fine, Pablo.
That's a fine right there.
It's just $1. Your phone. Yeah, it's just $1.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram looks like he took a step.
I mean, Dan, this is all I'm saying. Ingram, Nance Jr. is also a very good player, and Lonzo Ball. Now, last night, he wasn't great. But we all knew that shooting was going to be the problem coming into the NBA. So he was 2 of 11 last night. Still had 10 assists, still had 8 rebounds, had a steal, had a block. They won the game. I do find it interesting that teams are coming at the Lakers because of Lonzo's dad, and the Lakers, that team is rallying around Lonzo Ball and playing pretty decent basketball. Like, I find like every team's going to come at that kid hard, man.
So is that a rare opinion now, though, to say that Lonzo Ball's dad is actually a force for good because he's inspiring NBA teams to, like, play defense? Is that a brilliant, unique take, or is that, like, where are we in the, where are we on the LeVar Ball approval meter?
I think people are probably tired of him. Most people are tired. Even the people who loved him once upon a time are probably bored by the one-note nature of what he does, that the game doesn't expand. It's just talk, total trash, and none of it matters. None of the words don't matter in any way, and it's just the same trick again and again.
I mean, I'm entertained by him, so I'm not going to judge him.
But I'm less entertained by him because I've already seen the anarchy. I've seen the act a couple of times.
Right, and do we need him to be agitating someone for him to be in the conversation?
Well, we were saying yesterday, I felt like that interview between Stephen A. Smith and LeVar Ball after his son's debut when he got wiped out. I thought it was like a bad SNL skit. It was both of them trying very hard to be in character on something, and it just didn't feel in any way authentic. It felt like a bad wrestling promo.
To recreate the original First Take appearance.
Which was magical.
Right. Which was magical, right.
But again, that's the first time any of us had seen it, so we were all here for it. I don't know if I speak for everybody on this, but I probably speak for a few.
Here's what he's done for me, just in terms of basketball, right? So, because LeVar Ball is the reason Marcin Gortat sent the tweet out about John Wall. He's going to abuse LeVar. So I was interested to see what John Wall would do against him.
He's going to torture him. That's what Gortat said. He's going to torture him.
And it's odd because so then Wall goes into the game feeling like, oh, man, my teammate said I'm going to torture him. I have to torture him. And John Wall did not. He did not play that well last night. Mm-hmm. He had more points, but he didn't play well. He was 7 of 22 from the field. And, like, maybe there was some pressure there. I don't know. It's in a weird way he's made Laker games interesting to me because I'm seeing what the other team's going to do to his son.
How about this? I mean, Stugotz is watching Lakers-Wizards. That's LeVar Ball. That's the LeVar Ball effect on a night when the great World Series game is happening and is running opposite it. Those things were happening at the same time, and Stugotz is checking in on Lakers-Wizards.
I do think the having stuff on the line element of it is true. Like, oh, these guys, there are stakes. Shame is at stake here, which is always a great ingredient for wanting to watch anything. What I think, though, is maybe LeVar Ball needs to, like, pick bigger targets. Like, John Wall isn't, like, he's a big name.
Well, he didn't choose that target, though.
But even beyond players, I mean, like, LeVar Ball, if he wanted to get to the next phase of his media cycle, should be trying to pick a fight with, like, the NCAA. Like, explicitly, and the NBA, and, like, the leagues, the businesses. Like, oh, you have a sneaker scandal. That's interesting. You guys are conflicted. That's interesting. Well, I happen to be the one honest man who's upfront about my business and what I do. I am the clean one.
That's funny. It's a good point.
You can trust your kids with me, but not with these coaches. Like, he needs to pick fights with coaches, like the institutions in sports. And he's not done that yet, and I wonder if that's a thing that is too dangerous or whether that's on the horizon.
I don't think there's another level to this game. This is just playground.
That's sad.
It's playground trash talk, and I think this is all he's got.
You don't think there is, really?
I don't think there's.
He's got another kid who's going to go to UCLA. He already has him in a Lamborghini, I believe.
Right, but you think that the next evolution of this is him going to be fighting with the coaches?
I could see
him fighting with the businesses.
I could see that.
Like, if his business wants to truly differentiate itself, he should be attacking other businesses and not just sneaker companies. You know.
Oh, Punch Up, sure.
Right, Punch Up, yes.
Punch Up everywhere.
We never talked about that hilarious bait and switch that they pulled on everybody who bought the Zo2s.
The design changing radically.
For those who liked the first edition of the Lonzo Ball shoe and were excited to support this venture, guess what? You're not getting that shoe anymore. You're getting a remix.
This is why, though, he doesn't get to be a businessman genius. Like, he is stumbling his way through some of this stuff. There's Amin Al-Hassan on SportsCenter right now, and he does look like something out of Harlem Nights.
Roaring 20s, man. What did I tell you? Unrecognizable.
The Roaring 20s. I fully expect him to ask someone to get him something stat.
Stat or make it snappy?
Make it snappy is also good. Yes, another good expression. I don't understand. Why does Amin look about 30 years older than Amin is?
He looks like Lou Bega.
He does look like Lou Vega.
I like the look.
All right. It's the mustache. Okay, put it on the poll. Lou Vega, for those of you who don't know.
Lou Vega.
That's a fine, Dan.
What?
Lou Vega.
Vega.
B as in boy.
Yeah.
You guys. I mean, that is honestly. Stugotz called him a Lou Gehrig for the last 10 years.
That's not my fine system, though, man.
And you're blaming him right now, so that's another fine for you.
That's another, because that's a universal fine when you lash out at others and blame them for your mistakes.
That's not a universal fine. That's only a you
I
fine.
think Mike put that into effect yesterday, except for everyone except for himself.
Lou Vega, of course, singer, songwriter extraordinaire, Mambo number 5.
We were hoping that you were going to say another number.
Yeah, I was hoping Mambo number 4. You should have taken that.
I should have gone to break on that. All right, let me try it again. Ready?
No,
I'm going to try it again.
Closed.
Lou Vega, of course, singer, songwriter extraordinaire, author of Mambo number 5. Oh, I did it wrong again.
Don Batard.
Lemmy from Motorhead with us. What's going on with you these days?
Not much, we just finished the European tour, and we're going out in America, and then we're going out in Europe again.
Stugotz.
And what are those crowds like?
Clouds.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, what were you saying earlier about Massachusetts doesn't want to be part of its time zone anymore?
This is fascinating to me. Massachusetts is considering leaving the Eastern time zone. Is there some sort of coalition that we could say, don't go?
Are they allowed to just do that?
I'm not sure.
Where would they go? Like, what are they doing?
They go to the Atlantic time zone, which I think is an hour ahead of the Eastern time zone.
Okay, good riddance.
Good riddance.
What's in the Atlantic time zone?
What is the Atlantic?
I think certain countries in South America and the Bahamas.
What is that? Why are they doing that?
Apparently so they can get more sunlight.
What?
It does get darker earlier in the Northeast. This is a fact.
I thought I heard one time that time zones, at least in the U.S., were shaped by, cow sleeping habits and agriculture calendars and such. Is that a thing anyone else has heard?
No. I know daylight savings time is about farmers.
Pablo, that's something I've heard, Pablo.
Play
sure.
the music on him. I mean, what is that? Anything? What?
I thought we were sitting around this table trying to solve a mystery.
Play his
You guys are just shamming my attempt
music.
to help. Okay.
No, in fact, go ahead and just tell us more about this theory that you know about that none of us know about. Play the music throughout it, please. The condescending music that announces Pablo as being Pablo.
Quickly, if you want more sunlight, just wake up earlier.
What I don't understand is why you guys are trying to shame me for noting the influence of agriculture, farming on how we live our lives.
But I believe that's
in
just
the most fundamental ways. If this theory is true, which I don't know if it is.
But I believe that's just for daylight savings time, not for time zones.
I mean,
that's it. You petered out.
I'm not petering out. I thought we were trying to get to the bottom of this.
I have to see. The rumblings that Maine has already made their decision.
What?
As to where they're playing this season.
Wait, what? Maine is leaving?
We may or may not have lost Maine.
Is leaving.
We may have lost Maine.
What will we do?
I'm kind of excited for the possibility. Look, we operate in sports, right?
Right.
It'd be cool to have Celtics games start at 6 o'clock as opposed to 7 p.m.
It's not entirely unprecedented. I think that Chavez has Venezuela 30 minutes off, or had them 30 minutes off, at least for a time.
Hold on a second. I think we're bypassing. Did Mike just announce that Maine has seceded from the time zone? I didn't know. Did you know that people can just up and do this?
Are you telling me it's not 12:35 Eastern in Maine right now?
Well, that's what I feel like.
Is that what someone is telling me right now?
No, not officially, but the ball is rolling, folks.
Okay, on Maine. So Maine,
but who approves that?
Uh-oh. I think we're also losing New Hampshire.
What?
What is happening? What about Connecticut? What's going on? Connecticut on the fence still.
All right.
No official word from Connecticut.
Okay.
Who decides this?
That's such an excellent
I don't know.
question.
Is there a time council? Is it a governmental department?
It's Moore's Day.
Oh, no.
No, terrible joke.
So
oh,
bad.
man. So bad.
So bad.
Oh, what would have been a good joke there? What would have been good? What would have been a good time-related joke? Oh, I feel great shame. It's washing over me in waves. We're on a lot of radio stations. It was a terrible joke. I take it back. How do I take it back? Somebody help me. I want to take it back. I saw the horror on your face. I'm sorry. I thought it was good, and then I realized it was bad, and I want to take it back.
Stugotz and I aren't even making eye contact.
I can't look at you.
I want to apologize to everybody on behalf of the company.
Apparently, lawmakers have tried to do this in the past and have failed, but there is now a groundswell in New England to move these people to the Atlantic time
What would have been your time joke?
I wouldn't have made one. It was fine. No one was clamoring for a Morris Day joke there.
No.
Certainly.
Not the time.
It was daylight savings time with the cows.
Great.
They had a powerful lobby. Farmers did. So we never had a peacetime daylight savings time until 1966.
So it's 1:30 in Maine. Our show's been over for a half hour there. Confusing.
I think you're talking about time travel.
I don't understand what's going on here.
Maine has not yet enacted any of these things.
Maine appears to be more gung-ho about all of this.
So I just Googled who invented time zones. Sir Sandford Fleming, Scottish-born Canadian, proposed a worldwide system of time zones in 1879, advocated a system at several international conferences, and is thus credited with the instigation of the initial effort that led to the adoption of the present time meridians.
The way you're presenting that is as if you want us to like say it along with you, like the
no,
year.
he was doing that off the top of his head. He was totally doing that. That's just how he talks.
Did you know that it was gung-ho and not gun-ho? A lot of people mispronounce that.
Huh.
Go ahead. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is it gun-ho or gung-ho? Can I ask you guys a different question about sports as we meander all over the place?
Not really. We're in a very good place right now, I feel.
So is the Eastern time zone like the Big 12? Is that the parallel? Like constantly kind of at risk of fracturing?
You guys decided to stay here. I knew you didn't have anything left, and that's why I tried to move it. Like, I knew it. I could feel it. No, I could feel it. I want you guys to take inventory of what just happened there. You asked for more time. You were given it, and you farted. Like, that's what just happened
I couldn't get over how badly he pronounced fracturing.
I was really wondering if anyone noticed that. It turns out the answer is everyone,
that's potentially. That's what stopped us in our tracks.
Mike, I don't know what to do here. Like, there's a lot of texters who love Dan's joke. It might be the worst joke he's ever told on the show.
They have to all be dads.
I'm telling you, it's text after text after text.
Who's in charge of the time? Morris Day. I felt good about that when it left my mouth, but then it arrived in the atmosphere, and everyone looked at me as if I had sores on my face.
Yeah. Your joke smelled like a fart.
I know. That's how you all looked at me. I'm like, who's in charge of the time? Morris Day. I feel like, a dated joke, admittedly.
Oh, wait, say it again? Just like that. Because the way that you said it there was
funny. You guys asked who's in charge of the time, and I said Morris Day. Isn't that how that happened? It's how it happened in my mind.
See, it's not exactly how that happened. Right. If it happened that way, you could have gotten a key mix laugh.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for all of that.
But it's now less funny.
Morris Day.
If it were funny at any point, that's gone now.
Okay. It's over. I really did want to talk baseball this segment. I mean, there was an important game played last night, and I am genuinely and generally confused at how difficult it is to talk baseball. Because Pablo, it's the first time it's ever happened with Pablo. Pablo, he lasted 4 minutes, and he bailed on an entire segment where he just got bored.
Well, I want you to think about this, okay? That was on the heels of Pablo calling it the greatest World Series game of all time.
But I'm telling you, I'm not joking when I say that I don't know how this happened to baseball, where we sit here and we try to talk about baseball and nobody's here for it. Nobody.
I think we're occupying a space now where baseball fans who have kept with it and still love the game are turning around and looking to everybody. See, isn't this great? Not unlike the way soccer zealots show you the Landon Donovan goal and say, hey, look at this. And then you're expecting it to be that all the time. And you quickly realize it's not going to be that all the time.
I just don't know how we find ourselves in a place after that game where it's hard to get conversations off the ground.
Because, Dan, the average person watching baseball, I think, I read this the other day, it's like 55 years old. Like, so, and we aspire to have a somewhat of a younger audience. Like, people are just bored by it. I don't know what to do about it. And last night, one game is not, and a couple of innings is not going to change young people's minds.
Also, I challenge the relationship between the quality of a game and how good the conversation around that game would be. Like, the best conversations are not about games, unfortunately.
Right. Right, what do you do?
I mean,
it was a
what's
great
the
game.
best conversation? LeBron?
Well,
Where's he going?
You stayed, it was a great game, and then you move on. Then you got
That was awesome, and it was awesome, and we all experienced it together, and now it's over.
But there's only so many times you can say it was awesome, and then you got to rip a manager. Because that's how we do this. That's
All
sports
right,
radio.
Go ahead, Guillermo, put it on the poll there. After 5 times saying how great the game was, do you have to rip a manager? Yes or no?
Time for Dan to question his life choices.
You got to go to, there's the basic places, man. Choked, someone choked, managers to blame, pitchers, all that kind of stuff. I petered out.
Dan Le Batard.
Good work today. That was a fun show.
Stugotz.
It was also intergalactically stupid.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Who's in charge of the time Morris Day? Good joke or bad joke?
A lot of people liked it, man.
Stugotz, what do I do about what you just were complaining about during the break? I don't want to betray you. I don't want to put anything on air that you don't want on air. No. I'm asking you because I always think that the private shows that we get are a great delight, and I want to share them with the audience because Pablo just endured one about Dan Patrick starting a broadcasting school.
Yep, stole my idea. What do you want me to say? I mean, it's an idea that I had that Dan Patrick stole, and I'm a little upset by it. And he's invited a bunch of people to be contributors to this school, teaching stuff. And I don't know what they're going to teach people, but they have all the secrets to get inside sports media. They don't. I assure you of that. But I'm a little upset that they didn't invite me to be a contributor. That's all. That's all I'm saying. He does a Sports Jeopardy thing. Patrick, you're always saying how much he likes me. Paul Papp's always sending me direct messages. And I love Paulie. Paulie is great. I love him. But I'm always getting, Dan Patrick loves you, this and that. He never invites me to do anything. Not a single thing. I mean, I've never been invited to do a single thing with or for Dan Patrick. And that's a little upsetting.
There it is revealed why it is that Stugotz doesn't like the School of Broadcasting, because he's never been invited to do a single thing with Dan Patrick. A totally reasonable viewpoint.
I mean, all the guy does is listen around and, sits around, listens to our show, and then takes our ideas and executes them.
Well,
maybe that's a me problem that I don't follow through on any of the ideas that I have, and Dan Patrick just steals them and takes them. I mean, what is going on here? Let's go, DP.
Are you saying that Dan Patrick is stealing this idea?
3, 2, 1. Stugotz here for the that's perfect. 3, 2, 1. Stugotz here for the Stugotz School of Broad. Take 9. Stugotz here for the Take 10. Stugotz here for the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. There's no chance I'd be working for ESPN right now without having attended the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. And take it from me, there's no shot you could ever work for ESPN without attending the Stugotz School of Broadcasting, too. We have daily online courses for men and women of all ages that'll teach you a hands-on approach to learning the tricks of the trade over the computer. All classes are taught via Skype by the finest Costa Rican communication instructors willing to do this for next to nothing. With master's courses in hot takes, mispronunciation, and not listening, you'll surely find a course that fits your specific need. At the Stugotz School of Broadcasting, you can kickstart your media career in just a few short weeks, months, or years, depending on how long it takes to receive your full, preferably cash-only payment. Check payments are also accepted, but strongly discouraged. For those choosing to pay via check, checks can be sent to our Panamanian headquarters and should be made out to my wife, who is the president and CEO of the school for legal reasons, which may sound strange, but don't worry about it. This is the way all the big schools do it. Select financial need-based scholarships are also available to students who recruit 5 additional students. However, those 5 additional students recruited must pay in full, or they too will have to recruit 5 more students each. Upon course completion, you should receive your unaccredited degree within 8,000 business days. Trust me, buddy, we're good for it. So don't delay. Be like me and call the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. The Stugotz School of Broadcasting will teach you everything you ever knew.
How many of those do we have? I'm good ending the show with all of them. To lash out at Dan Patrick, who has never invited Stugotz to do anything. however many fraudcasting promos you have.
They did promise me a spot on that Sports Jeopardy show, and they never followed through. I mean, I'm still upset about it. I love those guys. I love the show. I do love them. And I love Paulie, but they never invited me. They never followed through with that invitation. And they promised me.
What was the spot?
I was going to be on it. I was going to be on the show. Yeah, contested. Yeah. Have you ever wanted to live in a mansion, drive a luxury car, and be recognized by millions of people? Well, there's no better way to make those dreams come true than by attending the Stugotz School of Broadcasting. But don't take it from me. Listen to how the Stugotz School of Broadcasting has changed the lives of people just like you.
I was under the impression that Stugotz would play more of a role in the school. The most interaction I had with him was the day he came into class and had us pitch him some show ideas. I found out that he tried to sell one of my ideas, and when I asked him about it, he said that as a student, all of my ideas were his intellectual property. He went on to try and convince me that this was a valuable lesson in the art of selling, which he said is 75% of broadcasting.
I've always admired Stugotz and wanted to learn from one of the best in the business, so I registered for the only class he was scheduled to teach. Of the 5 classes we were scheduled to have, so far, we've had 3 substitutes and 2 cancellations because of last-minute meetings and lacrosse games.
I produced a local TV show with Stugotz for 3 years. It took me about a year, but I finally realized that what we put on TV and whether or not people watch didn't really matter, as long as we had sponsors. We haven't been on the air in 8 months, and I still haven't been paid in full. I never attended this school, but I'm not above telling other people to attend, hoping their tuition will in some way or another contribute to me getting paid.
The Stugotz School of Broadcasting will teach you everything you ever knew.
I love how you think that's your idea, Stugotz.
I stole it.
I mean, you would totally take that class if you were a college student. It'd be your number 1 class. You'd be taking Dan Patrick's broadcasting class.
It
is a for-profit school.
Yeah, it's for profit. I'd go with someone a bit younger. Media's changed. It's not a shot at Dan Patrick, just the media game.
What do you mean? That's not a shot at Dan Patrick.
I'm Dan Patrick. Whoa, Dan Patrick,